My name is Jack Bracewell. I was born in 1922 in Bradford in Yorkshire. My mum and dad were from Keighley. They moved. I'm the only Bradford man in the family. My brothers and sister were all born in various places, mainly Keighley, Incrow. But I had a happy childhood, as I can remember. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of anything in them days. 1922, there was a big cotton mill strike in Bradford, and there were a lot out of work. My dad's an engineer. He was a steel planer in the engineering all his life practically, and he was a good dad. I can never remember him laying a finger on me. My punishment was made to stop in the house. That was the worst punishment that could happen to me. Which went very well. I went to a church school in Bradford. That was when I was around 3 or 4. I was not that young. I just remember going to Christ Church School up in Manningham. That's just part of Bradford, like. And, well, I was there for a few years. My brother was there. And then my mother, who had a bit of the gypsy in her, she was often moving. We always moved to a nicer house, but we moved from one part of Bradford, where I was born, up into a slightly better house, still within walking distance, but up the hills. And it was a nice place. We lived there for a while, and then I went from Christ Church School. I went to Carlton Street Primary, which was a step up, like. I'm getting a bit older now, like. And we were there for a few years. I think I'd be maybe 9 or 10 when we moved again. And we moved to a place called over in West Bowling. And I started another school, which was Ryan Street. So, another school, more friends, more moves. I moved again. My mother, she certainly had a wanderlust. These were all different schools, different houses. And I finished up at Woodroyd Secondary School. That's where I finished my time, and I was 14 years old then. And I left school at the age of 14, and I started straight away working in a shop, much to my dad's annoyance, because he wanted me to go into the engineering. And I must have had a mind of my own. I got to work in this shop. It's a fish and poultry, all that sort of thing, like, which was good. It was a good man who I worked for, and the son. They used to look after me. You know, I was only a little lad, about 2'6" or something like that. Anyway, I worked with him for, well, from 14 to just before I went in the army. Now, that's when I was 17, he taught me to drive. Well, he let me drive, and that was it then. No more cycling, wheels. So at that time, during the war, you didn't have to go pass a test. You didn't have anybody with you. You didn't need to have. So I just, he took me out once. I said, take it round like I was riding it. I'd always been keen, you know, what's him. So I set off in it, and he said, come back. He said, that's it now, you're on your own. And I've been driving now ever since, like, you know. Well, got to be, before I went in the army, I joined the home, well, it was the LDV, Local Defence Volunteers. Then they changed it into the Home Guard. And we were fully kitted out then with army uniforms and everything, rifle and the lot. And I was with them then until I got my papers. So I was called up to a place called Malton, Norton Grove Camp near Malton. And that's where we started our training. There was, I believe, about 60 Yorkshiremen, all like me, all drivers, and we just bunked us all together as a unit, and that's where we came into the RAC.
What year was that, Jack?
42, January, February. February 42. And we were there were 60 of us, and we were there, all who survived were there till the end of the war together. So we started training. We were all drivers, but first and foremost, we were soldiers, trained as soldiers, all the infantry, tackle what you do, you know. And we were young, it was exciting then, you know. It was, we trained, usual thing, infantry training, assault courses, route marches, guards, all this sort of thing. And then driving, of course, we had to pass an army test, which we all passed seemingly. We all passed. And then it was just training, then basic training, and then we moved. Now I can't remember exactly where we moved to from Malton, but we did, I think we moved down, I think it was down south. Went down south, a place called Crowborough in Sussex. At this time we moved all over the place. But when we got down to Sussex, like, we were down there for a spell, still training, doing what we had to do with driving and supplies. And the main thing then, they brought us up to Hull. And that's when training started really, like. With the wagons, each wagon we used to waterproof. We had to waterproof the vehicles. So we knew something was going to happen then, like, you know. We didn't know what, but we waterproofed the vehicles. Now, how they try, we used to pedal them up, you know, waterproof them, and then we had to drive it through. There was a big tank down a ramp and through a tank with water up to your neck, like, drive through, and if you were lucky, get through, and as soon as you got through then, like, it was cold, it was winter time, and you were wet and cold. They also had a glass of rum. They gave us rum to keep us going, like. And that was in then. And then we moved to a little place called Preston. It's a village outside Hull. And that's where we were stationed for quite a while. That's when I started motorcycling. Because they didn't take as much cleaning as wagons. Oh well. So I was motorcycle training then, like, with dispatch riding and convoy work, teaching us how to read maps, how to go from one point to another. And we used to just, we were like policemen, we used to just lead them, the convoys, to wherever they were going, which was good, it was interesting. I enjoyed that work. And this went on, this is all the time, it was training for this one thing seemingly. Anyway, apart from all this training, I did get a leave. I remember I got a leave from down south. I think it was my 21st birthday. Just before we went abroad it was that. So we had my birthday there. And then we moved down onto the south coast. Now that's when things started happening. We moved down on the south coast. We went to a place called, where you sail from?
Was Southampton or Portsmouth? Or?
No, near them, Gosport.
Oh, Gosport.
Well, we were round there. There were, you wouldn't believe it, there were thousands of troops and traffic and tanks, wagons, everything that you needed. Like, we knew then something big was on the books. Like, and like I say, we were parked up on this road. We should have known something was going to happen. But we were parked up on this road and they just said, now then, just get in where you can. Neighbours called us in, we had cups of tea and we were made welcome there, like. And I also remember, like, they came right into your wagons. This was after a day, a couple of days or so, into your wagons, and we set off in convoy. We were in this long road, like, and we drove down this road, like, going on towards the sea. Then we went down a ramp, and then we went up a ramp, and we were on a ship. So then it all came, we were there then, we knew what was happening. Now, I know we were there overnight, it was rough weather, it was raining. We were up on the top deck and we were sat in my mate's wagon like, and everything nice and comfortable. Then we set off. It was a fairly rough crossing then. We knew then it was a scuttlebutt, we were on the invasion, D-Day. Well, we set off. I've never seen as many wagons, you know, battle wagons. There were thousands and thousands, well, there were hundreds, literally ships in one big convoy. Now, naturally, the armour went in first, armoured and the infantry, of course, with them. They were the first men in. And I know it was quite a warm job, like. When we came in, I don't know, it wouldn't be D-Day, it'd be either late or early D+1. But we came off the ships onto the beach. And must say the Germans weren't right pleased to see us. We got a nasty reception, but survived it. And then we just pushed forward into a lager. And to be honest then, things, they just seemed to be normal, like, you know, you did your job. You were stay away, you were on supplies. That was our main thing. We had to do the supplies and we supplied the troops. Whatever they needed, it was either ammo, food, petrol, whatever needed, we took it. And that was the start of it then. Although we didn't move far, we were only a few miles inland. And things were not right then, like, I mean, we got so bit of mortar fire and shells, like, nothing to, we survived it anyway. It was one of them, you can't expect anything for it, can you, in a war, so that's it. There were a lot of us all together, all in the same boat. Anyway, we were there for quite a spell, kept moving about. I know at one point I got moved up to forward ammo point, and I was up there for a while, like with I don't know, one of our regiments, I think it was, 3rd Mons. They were all Welsh regiments for our infantry. There were 3rd Monmouthshires, 4th KSLI and the 1st Hereffords, fine regiments, all Welshmen, great soldiers. And we got sort of to know them. We got to know them because we used to take the supplies up to them. And it was like that all through the war then, more or less. From that time on, once we started moving, things were static at Cairn. There was a big battle in Cairn. And we were there for a while, a week or two. I know our tank men, they went in, and the German Tigers, they murdered them, like they knocked the tanks out. In fact, we were told our tank men were fighting as infantry. Anyway, eventually it was won, the battle was won for Cairn, and it came to a place called Falaise. That's when they were captured, a German army, thousands of Germans, they were surrounded and captured. And after that then, it was the big move then. And they set off. In the meantime, it's all backwards and forwards, supplying. But I always remember this convoy started off in a convoy, and it was called the Div Centre Line. All it was one road heading north. And we were on the way to Belgium. And I can't tell you how many days it was going up, but there was just this one main road, and it was just wagon solid. Aye. It was It was a boarding do that. Like, we kept getting a bit of a... The Germans were on either side, but the infantrymen were sorting that out. It was just, the main thing was through, which we did eventually. It was on that convoy, we lost the first 3 men of our lot that we lost, and it was on their own fault. We were told, you don't leave the convoy. But there were farm, eggs, going looking. They didn't come back. They never came back from that little venture, so them 3, they were off, coupled. But we carried on, still going backwards and forwards, went up to Belgium. Belgium. It was an amazing time of that. You were surrounded with people, they were climbing all over you, over the vehicles, pleased to see us, flowers, wine. It was good. We enjoyed that bit. It was a bit of a change from what we've been doing. So that carried on. Went on through there. What can I say? We travelled on, backwards and forwards, filling up with petrol, moving back, moving on. And then we got into Holland. Yes, I into Holland. Now, I remember Holland very well. We were stuck for quite a while in a place called Helmond. Now, the people there, we weren't parked in the town, but we were just outside the town, and the people befriended us, like, you know, one particular family. I got to know them through a little girl called Tusia Coombs. She was a girl from the town, and I was invited back to their house, and that's when I discovered panacook, they called them. It was like an apple pie thing. And they were good, like, we used to, while we were about, we used to see them and talk to them. Anyway, we moved on from Belgium finally, Holland rather, through then. We were over Nijmegen, went over the Nijmegen Bridge, which is, I believe, Pegasus Bridge now, isn't it? But we went over the old bridge. I've seen the new bridge, we've been there since. We went over the old bridge and then we were moving forward. I can remember, over the Pegasus Bridge, we got the German border, through Arnhem, went over the Rhine, went up through the Reichswald forest. I also remember the Reichswald forest, because there were trees burning and, you know, sparks flying. And I went up through this forest through the night, and then it was no sooner to get through than you were going back for most things, you know. You're always backwards and forwards. That was the job. That's what we had to do. So we did that. We carried on into Germany. I went up the Harz Mountains. I also remember the Harz Mountains, going up this road. And up at the top, you can see where it been, there was a Tiger tank, burned out. And first, you know, first we were close up, we seen it, we burnt out. But when we got to it, you really saw what happened. You know, there was a German, I suppose it was the driver or commander, but it was across the bonnet thing. It was dead shrivelled up. It was about 3 foot long. It shrunk, burnt to a crisp, you know. That was tankmen. I know they suffered with that. And our tankmen did, like, because them Tiger tanks, they used to call the Sherman Tommy cookers, because they hadn't a chance much with Tigers to do a lot of crafty work with them. But they managed marvellously, did the Tigers, the Shermans. And then we kept on going up, over the Rhine, up through the forest. Things were getting to the end now anyway. I always remember this point, Christmas 1944. Now we were in this big forest, this wood, and it was certainly lively up there, like, you know, things were happening. However, we were just 2 of us. They said, get your kit, you go in short leave. And this was 1944, mind you, Christmas. And I got 3 days short leave in Brussels. Now that was luxury. So now when we got to Brussels, we went just as we were covered in dirt and muck and things. How you didn't wash every morning. You didn't have time sometimes. Anyway, down into Brussels, and we were put with a civilian house like they put us in. And we were with this nice house. I remember it. 19 Avenue des Azalées in Brussels. I think it was Mrs. Schmidt. So nice people. A nice daughter. They used to show us around, like, you know. But we were rigged out, new clothes, smartened up. And we had a lovely 3 days. And all these Belgian people, all they were saying, Brussels, don't let the Germans come back. We didn't know anything about this Ardennes. Anyway, the Ardennes were unlike, they were being a bit nasty and they were a bit worried. However, it fizzled out. The Americans had a rough do. I know our division was there, and there was 15th Scottish Division and the Guards Armoured. There were 3 divisions, we all worked together. And that went up to the Rhine, which we crossed eventually. But there'd been the market garden, had been the parachute job then, previous, like. These all things were happening. You didn't know exactly what was happening. You knew in your little space what you were doing, what everybody else with you were doing. Anyway, finally, we were getting near the end of the war, and we got into we seem to be stuck in these air forests. But we're in this forest, and this, we knew it, we were getting close to the end. Anyway, I got 7 days leave to England, which was good. So I went back, I had 7 days leave to England. And it was, I can always remember that it was nasty, like in the forest. Went on my leave, me and Chuff Noble, my mate. He went to Barnsley, I went to Bradford. And we had 7 days, and then we came back. But then going back, you know, sort of end of war, and you remembered what it was like. It was just a bit of a worrying time for a bit. However, we got back, carried on to the end. The war finally finished, and we were in a place called Schleswig. That's a town about 20 miles south of Denmark, the Danish border. And from there, we were stuck there then. That was the end of the war. It was just normal stuff then, like supplying, and we were there for a few months, and then the div broke up. I met some friends in Schleswig, German people, and there were good people among them as well as bad ones. And they made this particular family I got to know. I know through the daughter I got to know Marican. But I used to go to her house and her mother and her sister, they were all there. They talked, made you welcome, like. Anyway, we moved to these car companies, driving officers. So, we'd moved from Schleswig then, but I still were friends with these people. And we moved to a place called Plain. Anyway, I'd got a short leave. We wanted a short leave. The officer had to be taken up to Denmark they were on a little holiday. Of course, I had one with them because I was driving. They were up to Denmark. I didn't forget these people, and I had a week up there in Denmark. Everything was like peacetime. But when I came back, we came through Schleswig, like up way back. And the officer I was driving, he was a young fella. He was not much older than me. A young fella, and he knew my I knew these people in Slesvig, and it was on the way through to Plane. So I went shopping in Denmark, and I picked up butter, coffee, tea, things that they'd never seen. And we did a nice little parcel and took it down to this family. The big surprise when I got there, knocked on the door, and I was greeted by a German sailor, unarmed, had one arm blown off. Anyway, it was same as me. The war was finished, and I didn't know what to expect. But it was all right. He was a German soldier. He got demobbed. He was disabled. He was back with his family. He was happy about that, and a bit quite happy about the little parcel that I took. Well, that was it. It was nice. But then I didn't see him more than from Plane. I was there for a while, like driving officers about. I had a nice little brigadier medical officer. He was all right, a nice old fellow. And then there was a general, I can't remember his name. He was a big noise. I drove him. About a fortnight, I didn't care for that. He used to take them out on a night to these parties, just to sit and wait for them. No nights out for a driver J. So I soon got off that job, blown it anyway. Not long after then, we moved out to Lüneburg. That's where we finished up, in Lüneburg. So, into Lüneburg, and that was it. We're in the Scharnhorst Kaserne. Big barracks it was. And it was literally with nothing to do really then, you know, just budge about. You were just waiting for your turn for the mob. Now being single, we were kept to the last. The young marines were sent first. And I finally got my demob 1943, October.
1940?
46.
Sorry, 46, that's right, yes.
1946. 1946, I got my demob there. I can always remember that. It took us, I know we went from Lüneburg down to a place called Cuxhaven, and we sailed there to Hull. Now on the ship, we were all warned, no weapons. If you took any weapons and you were caught, you were back in the army. I reckon there were more pistols and things on the estuary than they were in Germany. But anyway, I didn't have one, as a matter of fact. I didn't have any weapons. I'd seen enough of them at the time being. Anyway, they were into the Hull, and then we sent them to York. York, where we got our new clothes. We were demobbed from there, given our papers, sent off home. That was the end of my army, I thought. Then it were back to Bradford. And guess what my job was? Driving. Well, my first job, I had a brother driving. He'd been exempt during war, one of my brothers. He drove coal from collieries to the mills. So he got me a job there, so I started driving with him, like, you know, in that firm. And we were off on the coal job. It was all right for a bit. And then no mates. Where's all my mates? You know, no mates with me. I missed them. Anyway, another young fellow started with me, a lad called Ernie Rhodes. He started driving for firm. And we got pally because we were both just out of the army. And we got chatting. They were advertising there at Thornbury Barracks. There was a Parachute Regiment there. So we had a discussion. And do you fancy it? Aye, we'll have a go. So we went down to this Thornbury Barracks and we joined the Parachute Regiment. It was great, that. So we went into training again then, different parachute. It was a different sort of train to what we had been used to. But we did all that parachute training there, like. Went down to a place called Abingdon. That's where we did our parachute jumping, like. Well, we're down there. You're down there for a few weeks. You had to do 7 jumps to pass. 6 for the king, 6 for us, for the wings, and 1 for the queen. so that what it were, parachutists. And I was with them now for nearly 9 years. And we did a lot of so. We even did a jump into Germany on the Rhine, same as what the regulars had done. So we jumped on the Rhine and we had a mock battle with the Seaforth Highlanders. I remember them. They were young lads, young conscripts, and they were a bit scared, like, you know, because we were all camouflaged up and galloping and charging and shouting, you know how you do, usual things. Anyway, we finished up, there was a nice little war. That was finished. And then we flew back to England, and it was about first time I'd landed in a plane that we'd gone up in. It was all up and jump. Oh, that's what it was there for. Now, nearly 9 years I was in the Parachute Regiment. And they were good years. We trained, young conscripts came up, you know, they joined it. That was national service, wasn't it, I believe. They were getting called up, and the young regulars came up to join our lot. We were in the 12th Yorkshire Battalion. And we finally joined up with the 13th Lancashire Battalion, so it was like Yorks and Lancs.
Oh.
Right. And we trained together, just saying, like, you know, punting about, flying. Anyway, I finished driving for coal job, because I started driving as smashing a really good officer. I used to drive him as a regular. And unfortunately, we used to go looking for DZs, dropping zones. We used to go all over the country, like, finding places for parachuting, which was good. He was a good officer. But I lost him. He was on holiday in Ireland, in a place called Cork, and he was holidaying there with his wife and children, and the lovely people. I knew them all. Anyway, it seems the man got into difficulties swimming, and the CO went in for him, and they both perished. Didn't get out, so I lost him. He was a good man. Things just went on as normal then, until I finally had enough. I think my wife's daughter had enough, because I don't think she had a proper holiday for 9 years, because it were all camps, a fortnight's camp every year. So she wasn't sorry when I packed up, like. So then it was back to the driving again. Still on the same job, coal, until they sold out, did this man, he didn't sell out, he bought another company, and they were what they call wool men. They used to drive wagons that carried wool from the ports to Bradford. Mm-hmm. Bradford, they used to process the wool. We used to go to Hull and Liverpool, pick these wagon loads of bales up, bring it to Bradford. It was conditioned, combed, and made into tops and all sorts of things. But a finished article, then we used to take it back to the ports to ship abroad.
Yes.
And that's, what else can I say about that?
Just to go back into when you were the parachutists, am I right in thinking that you spent some time abroad?
We used to go abroad. We flew. I don't know whether you remember, there was a film called, it was The Red Beret.
Yes.
It was a film.
Yes.
Now, we flew over to Germany. It was a mass drop. And it was said that we were filmed on that drop for this film. Alan Ladd was in it, I believe.
Oh,
I never
yes.
saw him. He went with us. However, that, we jumped on the Rhine, like, you know. That's when we had the little battle with the Seafers. But then again, we used to do a lot. We go around attacking aerodromes, same as we had to go with the Americans. We had a nice little battle with them in Fairford Aerodrome.
Yes.
The Americans were there. So we did a jump on them, like, and a battle with them.
Yeah.
So I wounded myself there. It had a gas cylinder that you shot with your rifle, like, you know, only a bit gormless with it. And I fired in a little lump out of me. However, nothing serious.
Yeah.
We won the battle. And then we had very good meal, jovially, with the Americans.
Yes.
They were good lads. They give you anything.
What year did you finish with the forces and go back into Civvy Street?
After the Parachute Regiment.
Yes.
Well, then I was older than, wasn't I?
Yes.
And of course I'd met my wife then.
Yes.
I met her on the buses. I did a spell on the buses.
Oh, yes.
And she was a conductress, which I took a fancy to her. So I got chatting her eventually, you know, cheeky. So I'm not like I was before war. I wasn't frightened of talking to a female then. But I liked her, Dorothy. I got chatting to her. And we finally started going out, but I'd been going out with another girl that I'd met, like, in fact I was doing a bit of taxiing for her mother's spare time. Anyway, I told Dot, like, Dot says, well, that's it, finish, get ready for her. Or you finish with me. So I got rid of little Audrey. 6 weeks I was married. And we had 65, 67 years, I believe. 67 years together. And she died. And we were 10 years before I had my daughter, Lynn.
Yes.
And then that was the best thing that ever happened. And from that, well, Lynn got married and produced 3 great sons who produced some great grandsons.
So they keep you busy?
Oh, they do. But from the grandsons then came 4 great-grandsons and a great-granddaughter.
Yes.
They keep me busy. They're up there, 3 of them. So, life's good. Had a good daughter that's looked after me all ever since Dot died, which was a hard thing. She was a good lass. She stood a lot from me and all that. I don't suppose I was the best of husbands, but I wasn't the worst either. We had good times.
It must have been, I know you went, after the war you went into the Parachute Regiment, but I mean, it must have been difficult for you to come out of those conditions into normal life again.
Well, it was in a way, but don't forget then, I had a wife then. She encouraged me to pack in. I'd had enough, like I'd been. I'd done a lot of parachuting. I'd had enough, like, you know.
Yeah.
And what was I then? I was just getting on 30, getting on to 40 then.
Yes.
It was time to slow down a bit. Which I did, apart from driving job. It's always been back to the wagons. It's been my life anyway.
I mean, you've come on to more recent times. I believe you've been back to Normandy.
Ah, yes. Well, I was informed that I I was liable for the Legion of Honour as I'd landed. I was on the part of the D-Day landings, which I was very pleased about. Like, you know, but it's good. I never did anything spectacular that I could see, but I'd landed on the beaches in Normandy. That entitled me to the Legion of Honour. I had to wait a fair bit for it, I believe, as well, waiting. But finally, a French lady got in touch with Lynn. She'd read about it and she knew about me. She said, well, just leave it in my hands. She worked for the government in something or other. She said, I'll sort it out for you. And she knew I was going to France on this trip, which we did, and I've never had such a welcome anywhere. You wouldn't believe how the people treated us. You couldn't spend any money. When we landed there, you couldn't move. There were people patting your sign. Oh, sign this, sign that. And we were taken down to a little office, and we were all, there were 12 of us, we were all at this party. 4 of us were due for Legion of Honour. But we were in this office and we all drew €100, £100 a piece, just given us free to spend. It's a job spending it, you know. A couple of times when Lynn will tell you, no, you've done enough. Don't take your money. Did spend a bit eventually, but it's where they were. They were all. They couldn't do enough for you. They were great people, and that surprised me after all them years. You know that they still carry this on, and I mean they must have got a pounding in them days in Normandy, as they all did on beach, but. It's never forgotten every year. And there's a big do next year, the 75th anniversary of it.
Yes.
Hopefully, I'll get there. Keep your fingers.
Well, keep your fingers crossed, certainly. I mean, you're going back again this year, aren't you?
Yes, we're going in June. June 3rd, I believe. Lynn said. About 3rd of June. We're 5 or 6 days there, like, you know. But as long as we're there for 6.
Yes.
We're going independent this time. We went with a party last time, but it's not working like last time. So we're going private. Philip's driving us there. Well, Philip's never been, and he's wanted to. He's met some like a party last year in Portsmouth. And he'd like to go over there and see the place. So he's going and he's driving. So we'll be a bit independent this time.
Yes.
Not that it was good last time. I mean, everything was done for you. Every single thing.
Yes.
We never had to pay a penny.
No.
That's it. Some trust or other for veterans. And this has been going on for years. I never knew all about it.
Certainly, I mean, I'm aware of going back certainly to the 1990s, and because there was a big event, I think, would have been 1994, so that's 30 years, sorry, 40, no, 1994, it's 50 years after the event. So, but the great thing is that people still remember.
Yeah.
Because a lot of sacrifices were made, weren't they?
Yeah. One picture that sticks in my mind, in Arromanches, there's a big white wall, and on it was painted a little boy and a girl facing the wall. Please, no more war. You know, it's touching of that one, wasn't it? I nearly looked at Alan then. Anyway, but he was touching with that, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And what touched me most, we went up to Juno Beach, where Canadians and British were up there as well. There were part of us on gold and part of us on sword. Now, we went up to Juno, where Canadians had been. Oh, and it showed us, we saw a film. It was heartbreaking, like, you know, the war, but they'd been on the day, you remember the day parade?
Yes, indeed.
Now, they'd been on day parade, and the people that had, I mean, it didn't work out, did it? But the lads that were left, they were slaughtered, they were murdered. So these Canadians, there were no mercy. They were landing, there were no mercy then for the Germans. But the stuff they had to do, the things they had to put up with, you know, the killings. You can't realise it. But when you look back on it, sometimes you get a bit upset.
Yes, of course. I mean, one would hope that the human race would learn from the lessons that were learnt, but that were, you know, at the time. But you have to wonder, don't you, sometimes? I mean, just to think about that. I mean, if you were starting off in life today, what would your advice be to youngsters to try and make it a better world, if you like? What sort of thoughts have you got there? This is a tricky question, I appreciate. But
it is when you think of the youngsters of today, the teenagers. I think the worst thing they did was stop calling the young men up to learn discipline in the army, because there is none now, is there? You can't even chastise your own children.
No.
So there's no discipline. There's no respect for the police and anybody else. But what advice could you give them?
Yet you yourself said that you don't recollect your father ever raising his hand to you.
Never.
No.
The main thing, I was an outboard lad. I was out.
Yes.
And if I'd done aught wrong, he wouldn't let me go out. And that was the biggest punishment.
Punishment of, yes, quite.
He was a good dad. And a good mum. I mean, we'd nothing in them days.
Yes.
But if there was food to be had, we had it. Even if they didn't. I can remember it now. I remember a lot of things. I could always remember, I'd be round about 11 or 12, but it was a big downstairs kitchen, and my mother had a big square table. She used to bake, and Tuesday was baking day. I can still see my mother baking on that table. She used to make me my favourite Quaker oat pasta. People have never heard of that now.
Quaker oat pasta.
Yeah.
Wow.
The thing's similar. It's a bit like an almond tart, I suppose now, with jam.
Yes.
And things on it. It was lovely. And she used to bake it.
I mean, during the rationing, things must have been difficult for your mum.
There must have been, you see, but I wasn't with them, was I?
No.
I was in the army. And even after I came out of the army, when I was running to the pits, we could go in with the colliers into their canteen and have a meal with them. That usually at shift coming off.
Yes.
Canteen would open. I've had liver and onions and potatoes on a morning for breakfast.
Yes.
So the, colliers, because there's a rough job at the colliers. I wouldn't care for that. Not underground. I'll be up there.
Yes.
In the air.
Yeah.
But that's how it went. But my mum.
Just to recap on your dad, I mean, he was in the First World War, wasn't he?
No, my dad was never in the war.
Oh, he's never in the war?
I've got two brothers. Walter, he was a regular before the war.
Yes.
He was in the tank regiment. He was in Egypt. And then when the war started, we came back to, they brought him back to England.
Mm.
And then I think he was in York then. I don't think he went, once he came back from Egypt, he'd been away 4 years or so. I don't think he went abroad again, he trained. And he came out of tank regiment, went into REME, electrical mechanical engineers.
Mm.
He finished up in that, Sergeant Walter. He took me into his mess once over in York. He was in Fulford Barracks in York. And I had to go in civilians. I couldn't go in dressed, which I wasn't a civilian. I was a civilian.
Mm.
But Dougie, he's always been a driver all his life.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes right up to the end he was driving. Well, till he finished working.
Yes.
Mary, she worked in engineering. My sister,
Mm-hmm.
she was worked in engineering during the war. And so would Dot, my wife. She was in engineering. She was in gear cutting for a fair while.
Mm.
So, making tank parts, things like that. But while they were on rations, I was being fed with the army, wasn't I?
That's right. So.
But even when we come out of it, we managed. Like I say, people were healthier in them days than they are now. You didn't see any fat lumps like you see walking around Morecambe now.
Mm.
I mean, you see young people, they're enormous, aren't they? Men as well as women.
That's something to do with diet, isn't it, I guess?
That's it. Well, it's all this fast food job, isn't it?
Mm.
If they had to be cooking like they used to do, I'd say that for our lunch is a cook. She fills me full of vegetables, that girl.
Keeping you healthy.
Oh, she has done so far.
Are there any sort of funny moments you can think of? Anything that...
There's lots of funny ones. A lot I can't tell you. That's some funny ones, like I say that. The Cointreau job. That was good. The Germans had it, and our infantry captured it. The RAC carried it, claimed it a bit. We had it for quite a while. It did get distributed eventually. I mean, we couldn't drink a dozen bottles, but we didn't do bad, a dozen cases rather. But we didn't do bad, but we did have. We had lots of parties.
Ah, so you drank it, did you?
I wasn't there for a bed. Well, we're single, we'd not to worry about.
No.
We didn't know what was going to happen next day, so
No, quite.
it was there.
The spoils of war.
Yes, that were good.
Perhaps on that high note, Jack, we perhaps ought to come to an end, but unless you've got anything else you'd like to say, but thank you very much for being prepared to talk to and bring back your war memories in particular, but your memories as a whole. Very much appreciated, and thank you for allowing us to come and see you.
You're welcome, thank you. It's, if it does any good, I mean, like a lot of us said, I was one amongst thousands, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And we all did our job. Some of us were lucky.
Yes.
A lot of good lads weren't. And that's what I'm sorry for.
Of course.
Aye.